Hello, class. Welcome to week 6. In this scenario, we're working on a new database for historical newspapers. And I am working on the scenario as if a veterans organization has hired me to help fix or present their side of a story for a Smithsonian exhibit. Now, this happened in the real world, and so it was fun to research. 1995, the 50th anniversary marking the end of World War II, was to be celebrated at the Smithsonian Institute by displaying an exhibit of the Enola Gay. This is the bomber, I'm sure you know, that dropped the world's first atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. The proposed exhibit ignited a whirlwind of controversy, began long before the actual anniversary date, and it caused quite a kerfluffle. The controversy over the exhibit began um, when it first came out in the 80s because the display was going to be just beneficial to Japan or apologetic to Japan. Um, there were some social historians involved that wanted to accurately portray the consequences of the decision to drop an atomic bomb on a civilian population, and this really irritated veterans groups. So, in order to combat this, you would want to go into the actual primary sources from the war. One source I found that was exceedingly helpful in this kind of research was a New York Times article about, and this is all about the surrender, in which Wallace hails, this is the vice president at the time, hails the Chinese. He sees Japan surrender in the not distant future. So they were about to surrender here. What Wallace goes on to talk about, just to quote a simple line, is for 6 years, during more than 4 of which she stood alone, speaking of China, and unaided, she fought against an invasion of her land while a large part of her people have suffered torture and death. But while a considerable portion of her territory has been occupied, she kept the enemy at bay. Now, the reason this is important in this context is because one of the arguments of the veterans groups was that uh, while the dropping of the atomic bomb on a civilian population was horrible, arguably an atrocity, it was kind of fighting fire with fire. It was ending a series of atrocities, much worse atrocities, with an atrocity to stop it, because the rape and pillage and murder that the Japanese soldiers had inflicted upon the Chinese people in the war uh, was of epic proportions, and so it required these sort of dire, circumstances. So then the next article I found was yielding unqualified. This is a really famous actual paper that you see the headlines of all the time. Truman says President announcing surrender to Japan, the war ends. Um, and in this article, again, you can find the listing of the atrocities Japan committed, and then the next article talks about some of the war criminals and how they're going to be handled in the World War Crime Court. So again, this is a real world scenario in which an organization actually did ask historians to help them fix the exhibit because it was unflattering to veterans and they felt like they deserved better than that. Thank you for your time and have a great day.